Well, first of all, congratulations on your amazing victory, man. I was so happy for you, and I
Thank
think
you.
pretty much the whole community was happy for you. You're just one of those guys that everybody likes, everybody respects. I don't think anyone has ever said a bad word about you. But anyway, it's now been 2 weeks since you won the biggest tournament in the history of Age of Empires 2, so you probably already had a bit of time to calm down and process all the emotions and everything that happened in the event. So, looking back, would you say your performance in Red Bull Legacy was the highest level of Age of Empires 2 you've ever played in your life?
I think so, but I mean it's hard to tell because it has been different moments, and it's like our Empire Wars compared to RM. But I think I was super focused, and I something that maybe most of the time I don't get to play like at 100% focus
Hmm.
because there's always some distraction. It doesn't matter what. But I think I listened like I played like super focused. I actually didn't even notice. Well, I mean, notice. I knew there was a crowd, right? But
Hmm.
when I was playing, I was like, I didn't like I could hear small things sometimes, but I didn't even pay attention to that. So I was kind of on the sun.
It's very interesting. So, that means that before, whenever you played other tournaments, that was not necessarily the case. Many times you're distracted by small little things when you're playing at home or wherever.
Uh, Not really, but I can tell that I was super focused because after like three games, I had like my head was like my brain was already dead, like not dead, but it was like I could see like it was hurting a little bit.
Hmm. Hmm.
And sometimes I play like 7 games and it's like I'm just not feeling like that, right?
Hmm.
I guess everything counts.
Hmm. Before the tournament started, was it clear to you you were in the best shape of your life?
I mean, I was playing really good. Like
Hmm.
I guess overall during the year I was confident.
Hmm.
Like even I get some good results. Even if the series I lost, I felt like I played good. But like they can they are also the players that they are playing in a super high level, so you cannot always win all the time. But it's true. Like in the, I felt quite comfortable playing there.
Hmm. So, you don't think the whole thing of playing at a LAN that didn't make a difference for you?
I think that it didn't hurt me. Like I
Hmm.
felt like I was the underdog. How to say? Like I had no pressure, so I
Hmm.
was like quite relaxed. I think the only moment where I was nervous was the first game against Sierra when I started to win it. Like at the start, I was not nervous at all. When I was like pushing him and I had a good lead, I was started to be a bit shaky. Like I was
Hmm.
like I cannot click the units, and then Hera will had to pause, and then I did some deep breath to relax, and then everything went much smoother.
Yeah, that's really good to know. So that was during the first game with Hera, right? So he had to pause the game because I think he alt tabbed or something. That's what I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah,
Right. So I kind of felt like that could make you a little bit more nervous. But what you're saying is that that actually calmed you down a little bit. Is that what I?
yeah. It helped me because I was shaky before that, and then I was okay. I know what had such a good advantage that I think just like calm down and you, as long as you don't throw this, you are fine. And then I just like relax way more, like deep breath helped me a lot.
Hmm. So even before you started the tournament, you kind of had the feeling you were playing the best Age of Empires of your life, and you were going to make a good result there.
Well, like as I say, it's hard to tell that it was the best two empires, but I was playing super solid, so I
Hmm.
was super confident on myself, and obviously, like if I had good, like my goal was top four
Hmm.
before the tournament because I never reached top four in Red Bull tournament. I think my
Amazing.
highest was top eight in three tournaments, so I kind of wanted to be like go like one step farther.
Hmm.
And I mean, obviously there is like Viper, Leary, Hera, Mr. Joe that are the clear favorites. So just getting into top four was my goal, and I was quite happy when I reached semifinals.
Yeah, obviously. After beating Leary in the group stage, who's considered by many the most consistent Empire Wars player, did you start thinking, well, maybe I can actually win this whole thing?
I didn't think about that, but because as well, like I felt like Leary didn't draft really good according to his playstyle. Like he's
Hmm.
like more like crossbow, like he wants to take to be the one like have the initiative.
Hmm.
And I think the civilization he picked against me didn't allow him to go that way, right? So even if I beat him to zero, I didn't feel like he was playing on his. I don't think like I'm not saying that he played bad because he still like he played
Hmm.
super
It's
good,
Leary.
but it's
Yep.
not his style. I think it's something that he's not that used to. He
Hmm.
prefers to be the one that has the initiative, and he will be like more like having the map control and such. And in this case, I was that guy in the both of the games.
Interesting. When was the first time you thought you have a real shot at winning the whole tournament?
Think it was when I won. I was 2-0 leading in the finals.
Oh,
Then it
so
was
only
like,
in the
okay,
finals. That's the first time you thought, well, I can actually win this whole thing.
yeah, yeah. I think in the when I won Hera, I was okay in the finals. I don't have any pressure. I will try my best, but I was like I still felt like Lily was favorite,
Hmm.
and like even if, as I said, like I did beat him 2-0 in the group stage, that didn't mean anything for me at all. Like in terms of, okay, I will be favorite against him now. I beat him. I can do it again. I mean, I knew that I could beat him, but still, I know that he will make the same mistakes, right?
So you know, you felt like he was the favorite.
I felt like he was the favorite, and also after him, like watching him playing against Villes, he was super sharp there. So obviously, he was already playing his game, and he was. I knew it was going to be way harder to beat him.
It's one of the games that surprised me the most, because I was expecting Velez to, put a little bit more pressure on Leary. He was playing so well, right? And then he just completely faltered. I don't know. Well, in the games against Leary, right? Well, I mean, it's always easy to say when you play against Leary. It's always easy that everything from one moment to another goes wrong, right? Um, Tato, after your semifinal against Hera, you sat down with Nacho for an interview, which I'll be linking in the description box down below. It's in Spanish, and you guys speak really fast, but since I'm Portuguese and with the help of subtitles, I was able to understand most of it. And I find that interview fascinating because you were talking about the games and you were talking about the decision making behind those games and why you pick certain civs for certain maps and so on. And hearing you talk about all those things, I was yet again fascinated by how complex and how important the strategic aspect of this game can be, especially at the very high level. So I wonder, do you think that all, let's say, top eight players think about strategy as deeply as you do? Or do you think that some of them rely more on their technical abilities, like speed and micro, and maybe less on strategy?
I think that some players don't feel like they need that strategy aspect yet, probably. And there's also other players that they like me doubt we have to rely more on the strategy aspect. So I'm pretty sure like someone like Winchester as well, he likes to think up more about the strategies as well. So I
Hmm.
will say that you're right there. Like I probably think way more about the strategies than, for example, Leary.
Hmm. And you think that's a mistake that he doesn't think so much about strategy? You think that's something that can really push you forward and really, well, make you win tournaments?
Mm, I guess it's hard to tell. Like if you're not used to think about that much, I guess it's harder for him. And like he still like reached finals, or like he has reached 5 finals in the last 6 events. So if something works for you, like you can stick with that. But at the same time, I think thinking about some strategies or watching games also makes you stronger to, even if you don't use them, you will be better prepared against them. So
Hmm.
I guess like it's always good to think about more strategies just to know that, just to be prepared and not get surprised.
That's interesting. Despite everything, I think Empire Wars is still a pretty new mode in Age of Empires 2, right? And therefore
Mm.
less figured out, let's say. Would you say that having a good understanding of strategy is more important in Empire Wars than in Random Map, for example?
Thinking around the map are more strategies still, but
It's
it's
still
true
more
like in,
important.
yeah, it's true like in Empire Wars, like all the new maps they allow you to be as like to explore more options as well, because they
Hmm.
are not, like at least on the Red Bull they were not super aggressive except maybe Moras, Kavasan, Arabia, Atacama. There were a few maps that were quite aggressive, but I'm pretty sure that we had more of those in the other like in the early Red Bulls. So now, like maps like Outprop, maps like Shoals, they allow you to have more room to improve, like to surprise your opponent as well.
Hmm. That's interesting. So you think that's something that it's an advantage for you, was an advantage for you for this tournament?
Definitely, I think the map will help me way more this time. Yeah, pretty sure.
Interesting. Because they were less aggressive.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, meaning a map being less aggressive, you think gives more opportunities for other strategies, for special strategies? Or why do you think that it favored you?
Yeah, like, for sure. Like if map is aggressive, usually will be the same units. Like you cannot surprise because like you will be open, or like there will be always a scout archer because the aggression has to be right away. So
Mhm.
it's harder to surprise your opponent because it's like the action will become like at minute two, basically.
Right.
But in
Okay.
maps where
Mhm.
you can wall, you can hide a little bit what you want to do, and like you can, like he doesn't know if you are doing army, you are booming. Those maps gives more options in terms of strategy.
That's such an interesting point. Would you say you're a better Empire Wars player than random map player then?
No, 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 I don't think so.
No. You think
No, no,
you're
no.
still a better random map player?
I think like I mean, it's hard to tell because I just won Empire Red Bull, but at the same time, I think the map pool, as I said, like I think it favored me a lot this time,
Hmm.
and I think on random map as well. Like I reached finals on Armies Cup, so I feel
Right.
like I'm quite complete player. So,
Hmm.
and I will say that the level should be more or less the same. It depends as well on the maps, right?
Hmm. Hmm. So that's interesting. You think that maps play such a huge role? Interesting. You know, Tata, when the first Red Bull tournaments came around, a few folks in the community were afraid Empire Wars could maybe replace random map as the standard game mode in Age of Empires 2. Now, after 6 tournaments, is it safe to say that will never be the case and random map will still remain the most popular game mode in the game?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure about that.
Okay.
Random map, like the game is balanced around random map, right? Like in Pywars, and more if like we have the same, you play the same map, there's not that many shifts like there. Like they are clearly, I think, more broken shifts in Pywars than a random map that can make
Okay.
huge big difference. And like it's something that, as I said, like if you play the same map, like on Arabia random empires, I will say that you can always stick with the same. It will be always scout arches. I don't see you will see way more different. While on 1v1 Arabia random maps, you can see Dras FC, Menatams, arches,
Hmm.
just walls FC. So there's way more room to strategy in random map, and that makes, in my opinion, much better game mode.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Right. So in February of this year, there was a very interesting Reddit post about you, written by
Oh,
Umdeuter. It's his name. He actually commented in one of my previous videos. So in case you're watching this, Umdeuter, I really like reading your posts, man. So, long story short, TaToH, he found out that in the span of 12 months, you lost 14 match point games against top players in S tier tournaments and you won zero. And the examples he gave were series you played against Viper, Hera, Leary, and Yo. And like I said, in all those series combined, you had a total of 14 match points and you won none of them. He actually gave a funny title to that post. TaToH became the best player in the world a year ago if it wasn't for decisive matches. I'll obviously put a link to the post down below. Now, I assume you read the post, or at least you heard about it, because a lot of people were talking about it. Were you aware of those numbers, or was it also a surprise for you?
I was not aware, but I read the Reddit post, and it was quite interesting to see. I didn't expect to be that bad, to be fair.
You think it's just as a coincidence, or do you think there really is something more to it? I mean, do we feel like you do struggle to keep your nerves under control in high pressure situations?
Like I don't think I felt like more pressure when it's like the last match. At least not against top players, I would say. So I was quite surprised that it was too bad, to be honest. And I don't know. Like I guess it's coincidence because I didn't ever think about that. But
Hmm.
now next time, like if I get to that, I was thinking like, "Phew, maybe he's right." No, no, but like I broke that twice already this year, so
Yes.
I think I'm safe now.
Hmm. Have you done anything specifically for this tournament to try to combat that pressure? Well, you're saying you didn't really feel a lot of pressure, but to combat that thing that you tend to lose matches when it's a match point game. Have you done anything to fight that?
Well, I think the we had some like suggestions from our team manager, like helping us to keep the nerves like with like deep breathing. I think it helps a lot. Like just think about something that helped me as well is like to think about what I want to do, at least on Empire Wars because it's different around the map.
Hmm.
But like before the games, I will tell to myself what I want to do the first minute. So
Hmm.
I'm just thinking about that and not thinking about the anything else. And then it's easier if I have to remember like the first minute. I know what I have to do. I need to remember, and then like you will be already on the zone when after that minute you already are playing like the game. And
Hmm.
I think that helped, at least on Empire Wars, that helped me a lot.
Hmm. Interesting. In last year's GL boot camp, you guys had a session with a mental coach. Was he there this year as well?
No, 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 we didn't have this year, but it was
Okay.
last year. Yeah,
Okay. Do you think something like that could help you?
I think it doesn't hurt. Like it had something that you can keep, like a good ideas. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. You know, I believe that for most tournaments, and I assume for Red Bull Legacy as well, one of your favorite training partners is Dowd, right? So, do you like training with him just because you guys are very good friends, or is it also because of how Dowd plays the game and how he thinks about the game?
I really like we have such a good relationship. First, like I think we understand each other a lot, and also like I think he's really good at thinking out of the box.
Hmm.
And like for example, like the Korean games against Kera, that was something that he was like he had on mind, and we practiced like 3 or 4 times. And like, okay, what are the weakness? We like to think about that. We like to brainstorm together,
Hmm.
and also like step launchers with something like, okay, we need to test them because I felt like they were very strong, and that's something I did with him as well. Like we test step launchers on the bootcamp, and we realized that they were a solid option and more against
Hmm.
Meso. So that kind of stuff is something I really like to test with Doubt because he's
Hmm.
super solid macro player. Even his micro is not the best, but he's still super solid. Like he knows how to balance the economy to develop the strategies. I think much better than probably me.
Hmm.
At least the first
Interesting.
time.
Int- then you kind of surpass him. Interesting. For this tournament specifically, you mentioned several times in winner interviews that Winchester helped you a lot preparing for the tournament as well, right? And you kind of said that Winchester is also someone who likes to play, out of the box strategies. Most people will know Winchester did actually qualify for the tournament, but unfortunately he wasn't allowed to travel to Germany. So was that the reason you also picked Winchester as a training partner because he also likes to think out of the box?
Well, he actually, like after Jordan games, like semifinals, he messaged me. So it was him approaching me, and he told me like, "Hey, congrats, Tato! I'm really happy for you. We had a really good relations."
Hmm.
And he offered himself to help me to prepare against Hera because he had some ideas that he couldn't use because he couldn't come. I
Hmm.
was okay, sure, like I will take any help. And then he gave me really good ideas on we practiced more or less all the maps that I play in the semifinals. I think we practiced the bull probably the most. Like
Hmm.
he watched all the games from Hera in the bull, and he told me like some mistake he was making, and we prepare a lot on the ball. Like he gave me good ideas, and then like I remember that we played like maybe 6 7 games where he was Turks, and I was trying to counter,
Hmm.
and I think I only beat him twice. So I didn't feel quite comfortable playing against Turks. That's why I picked them as well.
Hmm.
So I had them instead of Hera, and like also like there was a wall that Hera wasn't doing, like it was on the ear on the bull. Yeah, like on the
Was
there was
that
a
the
wall
very
like
top of the map? Was that hole that was open the whole time? Is that what you're talking about?
no, like Winchester had the idea to wall the south
Oh,
part
okay. Hmm. Hmm.
so they couldn't go from that part to the fish. And I was really smart, and that's one of the samples that Winchester gave me. But they were more of them.
Hmm. So that means the first time you actually started training with him was before the semifinal with Hera, right
Yeah, it
before the
was.
semifinal.
Like he messaged me the Sunday, I think Sunday, yeah, Sunday quarterfinals was on Sunday. So he brought me at night, and then we were talking like Monday, Tuesday. We didn't practice at all because I wanted 2 days break, and also Lyri. So our first training session was on Wednesday,
Hmm.
where I practiced with Winchester and then I practiced with Lyri.
That's so interesting. Okay. Tato, you have one older brother and a younger sister, right? Who both played
Yes.
Age of Empires 2. Right. I remember your older brother was the one who introduced you to the game for the first time, right? And I
Mhm.
remember your sister actually used to be pretty active in the community and streamed very often in your channel a few years ago. I think
Yeah.
Laka was her
Yeah.
nickname,
Look.
right?
Yeah.
Did your family follow your games live in Red Bull Legacy?
They follow the semifinals and finals. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I told because my sister usually even like she played. She's not that much. He doesn't have that much time, so he doesn't watch it unless it's like a big tournament.
Hmm.
And she actually wanted to come to Hildeberg
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
first weekend, but like I already had my friend as plus one, so I couldn't accomplish that. But she was watching with his, like with my family, all my family, even that they don't know English, they were watching the finals.
Your parents too?
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Do they understand a little bit of the game? What's going on?
No. They will
Okay.
just see whenever the game finishes, they will see if I have 1 or 0, and then they will see.
Okay,
But I
so they
think
had.
I think my brother was with them, so he was explaining a little bit.
Hmm. So they had no idea if you were about to win or about to lose. They only know, okay, you won, you lost.
Well, like as I said, I think at least with my parents, my brother was with them, so he was explaining a little bit. So he knows. He doesn't know that much anymore because I think last time he played was 2004 or five.
Wow.
But still, he understand the basics.
Hmm. Hmm.
But he probably see a step launcher and he doesn't know what it is. What it is.
Right, right, right. 2004, that was such a long time ago. The game was so different back then.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Um, Tato, you're a professional Age of Empires 2 player and a streamer. That's your job, right?
Mhm.
If you meet someone for the first time and you tell them that this is my job, what's the kind of reaction you usually get from people? I'm very curious about this. Do you feel like people take it as something completely normal? Or do you think people will still be skeptical towards this whole thing of, yeah, programmer, pro gamer?
Uh, at the start, like people were, what is that? And it was hard to explain. Now, what I think it works the easiest for me is like I asked them if they know Ibai. I guess you know Ibai Llanos. Well, if you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
he's super huge. Everyone in Spain knows him. Like he was a Spanish League of Legends caster, but now he's like the biggest Twitch streamer in the Spanish community, or the second.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
whenever
don't.
someone, he's really known, basically, and he also like he's in contact with football. He casts some football as well, so he's really known. And I just basically say that I'm like Ibai, but in a way smaller scale. And
Hmm.
they, oh, okay, okay, now at least they understand that way.
Is it someone like Ninja that goes to talk shows and shows up on TV and stuff like that?
Mm, he does everything on his Twitch basically, but
Hmm.
he's probably, I think in Spain he's probably more known than Ninja in, uh,
Amazing.
like everyone knows him.
Okay, and what kind of games does he play again?
He doesn't play. He just cast. He used to be like well, he cast League of Legends, and now
League of Legends.
he owns a team with Gerard Piqué, the Barcelona football player. They both
Interesting.
together they own a team as well. That is Koi. The name is
Hmm.
Koi, and they're already at that. He has organized like the boxing streamers as well, like 3 times already, and also he does like I don't know what is the English word for that. Give me a second. I will translate
Hmm.
fast. But he does like a world championship of balloons in Twitch, and he was super known as well.
Uh-huh.
Balloon
Interesting.
foods, yeah,
Okay, so you compare yourself to them and then they know the kind of thing that you do for a living. That's so
yeah. Like I
interesting.
just say, like on way smaller scale, but yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I
That's
think
so
that's the
interesting.
easiest way, so that people understand.
Uh-huh.
If they don't know Ibai, I don't even try to explain myself because they know Ibai. It's like okay, whatever.
Is there a difference between if you're explaining this to someone who's a little bit older and if you're explaining this to someone who's much younger and has a lot more contact with YouTube and Twitch?
Yeah, for sure, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
I will
Hmm.
say like all the youngers now, as I said, like I think every younger knows are more known on Twitch. They are more familiar with that, and also like they probably know if I we're more that like 4 years old guy.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm pretty sure.
All right, Tato, I want to go back in time now and talk a little bit about the earlier stages of your career. I
Okay.
think the first time I remember seeing your name was around the time the HD version was released. So this is late 2013, 2014. Now, for the folks that weren't around back then, the HD version was the official Microsoft supported version of the game, but still, virtually all professional players were playing on Voobly. All but one. Mr. Tato here was pretty much the only pro player who, for the most part, played on HD, right? And that means you had absolutely no competition whatsoever in the HD ladder. I believe at some point there was like a 400 or 500 elo difference between you and the number two on the ladder. Do you remember that?
I think it was something like that, but there were some cheaters as well, so I don't remember
Oh, okay.
exactly the difference. But I was just playing for fun that back then. I think it was. like the HD was released in 2013, but I didn't start playing more serious until 2015 or something.
Hmm.
Like I played some games, but I was still studying, so I didn't have that much time, and mainly I was just playing like so like the friends that are still playing. So then they were, oh, let's play again. I was okay, let's join, and I was just playing for fun as well.
So is it why you like to play HD more because it's easier to get to, it's easier to install, and Vubli needed a lot of installations, a lot of patches and stuff like that. So it was just harder to get your friends to play it with you.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think is the reason was because on Bubble it was harder to get find a game, and I felt like I wanted to play with the new shifts as well because
Hmm.
they were releasing expansions back then, and I had like was something refreshing. Even Dowd was joining sometimes my team games. He
Doubt,
will not
interesting.
he will not say a word.
That's
He will only say
typical.
GG at the end. Like I was going, hey Dowd, how are you? No, not a single word. But he was still joining sometime my teams to play with the team. It was quite fun.
It's so interesting, isn't it? I mean, when people see Doubt today, they cannot imagine the kind of reputation he had before.
Yeah.
Because he
Yeah,
would
yeah.
not answer to anybody, not even Viper at some point, not even you as well. Yeah, it's one of the biggest surprises to me when Doubt started streaming and he was so entertaining. He talked so much, which such oh, my mind was blown. Um, Tato, this is all such a long time ago. It's hard for me to remember it all, but I believe that in 2013 and 2014, the Arabia Huns war fever was still very much alive on Vubli. And I heard you say in an interview you absolutely hated Hun wars. Was that also a reason that kept you away from Vubli?
Uh, well, it was like quite boring because it was the same thing all over and over and over. So I felt like it was quite repetitive for me, and I
Hmm.
didn't want to play that much. I always love more like hybrid maps.
Hmm.
I love when like I remember I when I started to play, I love to play full random, mega random. That
Hmm.
was actually the map I played the most on HD. Think it was mega random all the time
Hmm.
because it had something that you have to adapt as well. It was like you had to like you could start with a monastery, or you could start with a monk, or like one barrack or spearman instead of scout. So that made something unique, and it was something like way different that playing scouting to cavarches and walls all the time,
Hmm.
and just whoever had more cavarches will win the game. It was not really fun to play. Like I still enjoy to play those games, but not like 10 games in a day, I would say.
Okay, not all the time. Yeah, it's I totally remember when if you were hosting a 1v1 game on Vubli, if someone picked a Civ, they would get kicked right away. It needs to be Hunts. It has to be Hunts. If you pick something else, you're going to be kicked from the game. How
Yeah, yeah,
things have changed.
completely.
Yeah, Tato, I believe you were one of the first pro players to make YouTube tutorials. Or your tutorials are the first that I remember, at least, like build order tutorials. I remember that the one time I finally understood how to make a drush fast castle was after I watched your tutorial. You obviously remember this, but back then in team games as a flank, you would always go for drush fast castle on Arabia, at
Mhm.
least,
Yeah.
always. Have you thought about adding some new updated tutorials for the new civs or the new openings that have emerged since the E came out?
The ones you are talking were in English, and actually, I don't understand how people could understand me back then
Well, I
because if
could.
it's it was like, phew, I cannot watch them now. Like, it's like, oh my god, those were like. But at least I had like I had the guide, so it was like just you could follow that even if you didn't understand.
No, you
So it
know
made that
what I
simple.
loved about yeah, yeah, that's the thing. That's what I loved about them. They were totally simple, and so you told people, so you send one villager here, you send one villager there, and then you explained why you're supposed to do that because you want to have more farms here, because you want to have more farms at minute, I don't know what. So you explained why people are supposed to do that, and that's what made me really understand, the thought process behind going Drush Fast Castle. Nobody does that anymore, right? It's such a
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I remember if you had a 1v1 game in the old days, if it was a 1v1 hidden pick, everybody would go for Aztec's War. It's going to be Aztec's War for sure. On tournament, I'm speaking about tournaments right now, and it's going to be a militia Drush FC all the time.
all the time.
Uh, yeah, and people had amazing timings when you think about it. I remember people hitting like 1645 Castle Age, which, back in the Vubli times with the lag and everything, that's pretty amazing, I think, right?
Yeah, and more after 5 militia, it was like woo. When someone was below 70 minutes with 5 draft militia, it was already insane. Like people will, I need to copy this,
Yeah, yeah,
and it was because
absolutely.
as well you were fully wall, like you invest into walls as well. It was quite amazing, and every time I did, like as you said, like when I'm trying to teach build orders or doing tutorials, I love to explain why I'm doing that
Hmm.
because I feel like everyone can copy something, but if they don't understand why it's that way instead of the other way,
Hmm.
they will always make the same mistake. So I prefer. I mean, I used to teach a lot of math and such, so I always prefer to make people understand the reason behind that. That explain like teaching them what is the answer basically.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that makes so much sense. I think it's easier to understand why as well when you do that. Okay, Tato, in late 2018, you were invited to join the legendary TyRanT clan. And that was obviously very big news in the community. You know, back then, whenever the Tyrants hired a new player, everybody was talking about it. And
Yeah.
broadly speaking, the TyRanT clan was basically the gamer legion of today, right? So that was the team with Doubt, Viper, Slam, Jordan. Now, unfortunately for you, those were already sort of the dying days of the TyRanT clan. So I don't think you ever made it to Dubai to meet the sponsor, right?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that's so sad,
Yeah.
actually. But so what I wonder is, did that move have a big impact on you? I mean, did you start taking the game more seriously because of it?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it changed completely. Like I until then, I think I was more like 1v1 player. I
Mm-hmm.
love to play 1v1 more than team games because I didn't fight. I didn't feel like I was like a good team game player. But after starting to play with the best, obviously like Viper, Doubt, Jordan, those were like in my team. Obviously, I think I've started to improve more and more, and like playing against the best made me better player. Also, like
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, as I say, when I started to play in 2001, when I was super young, like well, my older brother, I didn't know how to do it, but my older brother was watching Doubt games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like that was like the legend back then, and still, in my opinion, he is.
Mm-hmm.
And like being part of the team with him, it was like such an honor as well. And
Mm-hmm.
now like we are such a good friends, and I actually like love our relation like among all the GL members. Also, like I was already like having my tweets going on. It was getting
Right.
bigger and bigger. That's when I started to do more Spanish content as well.
Mm-hmm.
So everything together, like it was like a perfect combination to test if I could be full time as well. So that was probably after Joy to Thailand. I decided to go more like give it a try to be like full time, and I think since then I'm still. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Interesting. Okay, so in 2018, when you joined the Tyrant Clan, what else was going on in your life? I know you went to college to study math, I believe, and you talked about it right now. So was college your main focus back then?
I had finished programming and I was still studying math, and I was switching from the university. I was changing universities because the one I was going, it was like 1.5 hours from home. So it was quite annoying to go every day there. I'm going back. So I wanted to do it online.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was on the process to change universities when I started to do this more serious. And I tried one semester to do both, and it was quite hard.
Okay.
But this was and I told myself, okay, this is gonna be a try. I can continue later if it doesn't work,
Hmm.
right? So I decided to like take a break from the studies and try to give everything I had there for the Age of Empires to see how it goes, because it was going to be just one opportunity,
Hmm.
and I think so far it paid off. So I'm happy
Absolutely.
with the decision, but I still I still have on my mind to finish my studies on math for sure.
Right. So you didn't finish your math studies, and you were talking about programming. So you did that before you went to college?
Yeah, yeah, I did programming, and then I went to college to university.
Right. So is that a college degree as well, programming, or what exactly did you do there?
I don't know how to explain in English, but when you finish the high school, I think it is,
Hmm. Hmm.
you can choose to go to university, and you can do like 2 years specific studies. So I did
Interesting.
like 2 years specific on programming,
Hmm.
and then after those 2 years, I could still like or start working on programming or continuing studying math.
And
And
you didn't enjoy it?
I did enjoy it, but I prefer, like, I love maths, so I wanted to go deeper on math, and then had both as an option.
Interesting. You didn't finish your degree. You just said your math degree.
Yeah,
Was it because you decided to go full time as a streamer?
like that's yeah. Like I said, like I tried one semester when when I changed university online. I tried to have like one semester. I want try to do both at the same time, and it was quite. I didn't feel comfortable. I felt like I didn't have time for anything else.
Hmm.
So I decided to take a break from the studies, and I will say, okay, I will finish them later if this doesn't work, or if it works, like still, I can finish them later. And just because I felt like this was going to be one time opportunity for the seven empires, and that was going to be this one. I could
Hmm.
not try earlier. I mean, later. I didn't know how it will have gone.
Was there a moment when you actually made a decision? So now I'm going to go full time as a streamer.
I think it was summer 2018 before I started the next semester of university.
Okay, okay. So you just talked about it, and you said that early on in your career you played mostly 1v1s, but then after playing a few team game tournaments, such as the Nations Cup and the War is Coming, you said you started enjoying team games more and more, right? So
Mhm.
what about today? Do you prefer 1v1s or team games more?
I still prefer tickets not now.
Interesting.
I I'm not sure if it's because I'm getting older, but it's like I don't like to play 1v1s like on ladder, for example. I Last time I played 1v1 on ladder, I think was like 7 months ago or something.
Wow.
I love to
Okay.
prepare for tournaments, like 1v1
Hmm.
tournaments. I really like to prepare, like think about the possibilities, the strategies. But I don't like to play 1v1 on the ladder. I think it's just meaningless. I would prefer like to play with my friends team games, less chilling and like enjoying them, but no, not the 1v1s.
That's so interesting. In the past, we obviously didn't have nearly as many tournaments as we have today, but I would say there was a good balance between team game tournaments and 1v1 tournaments. These days,
Mhm.
though, most S tier tournaments are 1v1 tournaments. I think Battle of Africa is the only major team game tournament, right? Why is that?
I think because people doesn't like team games that much. I believe. I think it's because the viewership, and also because I believe like prize pool is way harder to, like, let's say 30K 1v1 tournament is much bigger than a 30K team game tournament
Right.
because you have to
Everyone gets more
split.
money.
Yeah, like you have to split. So I guess that also that attracts more people. But I really enjoy team game tournaments. I actually was quite sad that they removed Sling because I felt like Sling was, after, like, not the first, because when it was not nerfed it was super broken in my opinion.
Hmm.
I think that was not that fun. But now that is, I think it's quite balanced somehow. I feel like it opened a lot of windows. Like we had such a good games on ECL, like with Suomi as well, like triple Sling, that was insane to watch.
Hmm.
And it's something that if you don't allow Sling, is something that you probably won't see anymore.
So, and the big difference now in the E is that the taxes are higher, right? So even before or and after you make coinage, and there's still higher taxes than it was before. Okay, interesting. I
Mhm.
think you're one of the first guys that I hear say that slinging is still balanced in DE. Interesting.
More
Uh,
balance. Not
More
sure if it's
balanced, at
completely
least.
balanced, but like it's hard to balance, right? But I felt like at least on the E, it was decent. Like it had a counter. I will say, like you could counter Sling on the, I believe.
Hmm. The thing is, these days we also don't see pro players playing as many team games on the ladder. I'm not even talking about tournaments. Why is that? Why don't people even try to play a few games on the ladder just for fun?
I don't know. I do play them. I
Hmm.
usually tell like, let's play team game ladder. I think we get like a high elo rating. There will be more teams like, okay, let's go to high, and then we can play there. But they refuse. I guess it's harder to schedule as well because everyone has his own like time zone basically. Like even if we are in Europe, like Jordan for example, he streams in the mornings. That's
Hmm.
like I'm talking about GL, but I think it can be applied for everyone. Like it's harder to, like, to play Tingers, you need the whole team, right? And it's harder to get all together probably. So
I
that, I
see.
guess that makes even harder.
Hmm. A couple of people have blamed the matchmaking system for the lack of high level team games. Would you agree?
Mm, I don't think so. At least I don't think it affects the high level team games, in my opinion.
Okay.
because if you play for that, you will eventually get a high elo team game, right?
Hmm.
Then you will play against high elo team game players. So I don't think the matchmaking hurts the high elo um, part. I will say that perhaps it hurts the low elo maybe, because
Hmm.
there can be a lot of smurf and it's not
Right.
the best. But I will say that for high elo, I just feel like people doesn't have the time to get his elo high.
Okay. Okay. Um, okay, Tato, I want to talk to you about Warlords. That's another S tier tournament going on right now, organized by Mem with a $30,000 prize pool. And one of the special things about this tournament is that it tries to speed up the first few minutes of the game, right? By having players start with 9 villagers instead of 3. So the first thing I would like to know is, do you think we actually need to speed things up, I guess, for a better viewer experience? Or are you actually totally fine with the standard 3 villagers start?
As a player, I'm totally fine with the three villagers.
Mm-hmm.
I think as a viewer, they don't enjoy that much. At least new villagers, new
New viewers. Mm-hmm.
new viewers. They will not understand why everything is going slow at the start. And for us, it's super important because it's what is going to develop the next, like your strategy and such. But I understand that um, as a viewer, people don't enjoy those minutes. Like let's say, for example, in Arabia, maybe a little bit, but let's say Arena. Arena is like the first minutes is like, what is going on? There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing happening, right? So I actually don't mind this opening.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still it could be closer to the three villages opening. Like right now, I think this is not the Warlords opening is a bit trickier because you have the same amount of food, but you have more villagers. So it makes it open for more strategies as well. Like you can see like super early draws, like even before the Lammer Cup. But I think this is not balanced for like SRM.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you think it's just a question of more time that people will get to figure out what kinds of things still need to be balanced, or do you think a 9 villager start cannot ever be balanced?
I think it can be balanced. And
Okay.
I will mention D Waters. There was a D Waters League, and they had the same. Like I'm not sure it was 9 or 10 villagers, but they balanced they. I'm not sure how they did it, but they kind of count how would you the more resources that a normal sea will have by that minute, and you will have like you will start with 50 food, and you will have 2 boards and then 6 ships instead of 8. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have that much food left. Like it's like they just let's say that you start playing at minute 3, but you will have that setup. You won't
I see.
have normal setup. Let's say
Mm-hmm. I see. So do you feel like it changes the game too much having 9 villagers at the start?
no. I don't think it
Okay.
changes that. So it does. I think it shouldn't be too bad actually. If it becomes a standard, it's just like it has to be balanced a little bit more in terms of initial resources.
Okay. Okay. So you had a very strong start to the tournament. You won your first game against Miguel, and after a big victory in Red Bull, it seems clear to me everybody will now see you as one of the strongest contenders to win this tournament. Does that put more pressure on you because people now expect you to perform really well, or does it actually help you because your opponents will now have more respect for you? Not like they didn't have any respect for you before, obviously, but it's always different when you've just won a $200,000 massive tournament.
Well, I believe that all the players had the respect for, like, in terms of we know each other for a long time, so we know what we can expect, and also like this is a random map, and we just finished Empire Wars map, so it really doesn't mean that much.
Hmm.
So I don't feel pressure,
Okay.
and as I said, like I believe that this tournament practice will be super important because it's a new mode basically, and there's a lot of room to improve or prepare something surprise,
Okay.
and like the meta will take some at least some serious to be like to discover the meta, I will say. So it's gonna be interesting. I don't see anyone as favorite on this tournament. I think
Okay.
it's open to everyone.
Okay. Just because the strategies are still not figured out and people don't really know what's best.
Yeah, and also because you need to prepare. So I guess if Like let's put Viper. I know he will practice, but just an example. If he doesn't practice, I think he can easily die to anyone of the players.
Okay, that's so interesting. So, is it in a way similar to Empire Wars, or did you say Empire Wars is still a lot different than this nine villagers start?
Well, it's very different. I
Hmm.
say like here you can still do like Dark Age shenanigans. So um, I will say that this has more strategy than probably, and also the maps is like there's way too many different maps that
Hmm.
makes a bit more tricky in terms of preparation as well.
That's something that you like, though, right? Because you like to play a lot of different maps, and you're someone who's well known for being very good at adapting. So, is it something that you like? To have this, there's a lot of options in terms of maps.
At the start, I didn't like that much because there are
Okay.
some maps that I really didn't want to play.
For example.
Black Forest, I don't want to
Okay.
play that. But at the same time, you can work around that as well. And
Hmm.
it feels like on 9 villagers start, they are not as bad as I thought as well.
Okay.
Like let's say Socotra. I was expecting Socotra to be like a lame fest, but now with 9 villagers start, you don't have time.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's probably my only concern about this star, like the 9 village star. I have like a mixed feeling about the scouting part because it feels like you don't have time to scout your enemy,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it punishes the greedy players. Like
Okay.
like if a player wants to, let's say, push there, and you see that his score is not up, and you got rust, you can get him like unprepared, right? And you
Okay.
can surprise him. So that's something I like, but at the same time, you can maybe be a bit unlucky and don't have time to scout your opponent.
Okay.
So
Okay. I
maybe
see.
like having a bit of bigger line of sight at the start, like I don't know, so like 3 or 4 more radius tiles
Hmm.
around your TC, so you can see more stuff and you don't have to scout that much.
Hmm.
Like just boosting a little bit your exploration, I think it could be something interesting. I'm not saying that it should be the best, but I think something to consider.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Tato, I would like to talk to you, or I would like to hear you talk about Age of Empires 4. I saw you were trying the new civs just the other day, and again, I hear the community is really happy with the state of the game right now. Will you actually try to be more competitive in Age of Empires 4 in the near future?
I'm not planning to be super competitive. I mean, I'm still decent at the game, but I will probably try to play at least 2 3 times a week, like
Hmm.
just chill games, team games, just to get the feeling of the game, not to be like super rusty. Because I remember when it came out, like and I played Genesis after that tournament. I stopped playing because KOT was coming,
Hmm.
and then I didn't play a single game until April or March when Gold Elite happened, and then it was so hard to get like to be in the meta and like because the bill orders, something that is really hard about Age of Empires 4 compared to Age of Empires 2
Hmm.
is that the bill orders for everything are different. So
Right.
and they are evolving, like they change
Okay.
on the patch because here like you can um if you know one bill order for scouts, you can make it work for everything basically. Maybe like
Hmm.
Gurjaras or Chinese can be a bit different, but in
Right.
general it works for everything. But it's not the same for Age of Empires 4, right? That's something I like about the game. Like the bill orders are different, but at the same time, you need to play a lot to and like not forget about them.
To keep track of what's changing as well. Yeah. So, what's your general assessment of the game? You like playing it? What do you think it still needs to do better?
Mm, honestly, I feel like now it's in a really good state.
Hmm.
I didn't enjoy when it was like poor siege meta, and I think still like walls. I haven't played that much competitive, but I think walls are a big issue in the game. I
What
feel
about them?
like stone walls are way too strong. Not sure if it's because it's harder. You cannot take it unless it's with sheet. So it's not like a Age of stone you can take with steel. Maybe they need a unit that could break like peters or something, like could make like
Hmm.
huge walls.
Hmm.
That probably can probably work as well because also I think they are built super fast.
Okay.
So I will say that, in my opinion, walls is the biggest problem for Age of Empires 4 right now. But in general, I think the game is in the best state that it has never been.
Hmm. Well, walls is something that we in the Age of Empires 2 community have thought about how to fix them for a long time as well. All right, Tato, thank you so much for your time, man. It was really nice to know more about you, and I wish you tons of success for Warlords
Thank you.
and the future. And we'll see each other soon, I hope.
Thanks for the invitation. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you
Have a
so
nice
much,
one.
Tato.